Hey everyone, my name is Dave Sexton. This is my 8th video in my series of videos on reactive programming. In this video, we're going to go into the service layer. I think we're going to start building that out based on the spec. I don't know that we're actually going to go into socket programming just yet. I'm thinking more along the lines of checking our interfaces, our contracts, and making sure that they actually work the way we would expect them to from the point of view of the service. And of course, we'll start implementing some queries in there if we can, and maybe build a generator or something. I don't know how far I'll get in this video, but that's the plan anyway. But before I start that, I just wanted to speak about a couple things real quickly. So the first is that I wanted to thank you guys for some feedback that I asked for on Twitter, and Lee Campbell specifically answered very directly, so thank you, Lee. I appreciate that. Looking at the analytics on YouTube for the series, I'm noticing that the average time people watch the videos for is under 15 minutes. Depending on which video it is, it's somewhere between 8 minutes and 15 minutes on average. So clearly that tells me that people are watching it in the way that you had described for yourself. That surprises me, to be honest, because, for example, Bartosz Milewski's video series on category theory, which I highly recommend, by the way, once I started watching it, I binge watched it. I watched it for like 4 hours at a time. So the 15-minute thing doesn't really make sense to me. I'm not sure how much you could learn at all in 15 minutes. It seems like, unless you have really concentrated information. But that's not really the point of the series, so I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could. The amount of time it takes me to just record an hour, and the prep time to set up and the editing afterwards, which takes at least an hour to watch the video back again, but usually about 2 hours or so, and then uploading it to YouTube and all that. The whole process takes a few hours. I'm getting more benefit doing an hour worth of video than if I were to do like 15-minute bits and pieces, plus having to plan it out, because if you're doing such small pieces, I think you really do have to plan ahead so that you have relevant information in each piece. But I don't plan on doing that because it's just a lot more effort for me, that more time out of my weekend to do it. But I respect the problem. I respect everyone's viewing patterns sort of points to that. So I think what I'm going to try to do, and everybody, you could tell me if this is not the right approach. What I'm going to try to do is I'm just going to continue recording the hour series, but then during editing, I'm going to look for pieces that I think are important and relevant, perhaps 15-minute segments if I could find them, things that have some concentrated information in them, or really good relevant examples. Once we start doing a lot more RX programming specifically, like querying, I think there will be a lot of examples where there are operators or patterns that you want to teach to people. So those would be, I think, good places to pull them out and label them for what they are and keep them as separate videos. So almost like a highlights segment or something. So I'm thinking of doing that instead. So that way, if you're not interested or don't have the time to watch a full hour-long video, and you don't like having to watch bits and pieces of it because there's a lot of sort of boring parts and silence because I'm building a real app in real time, then hopefully these highlight pieces would be more like your go-to place, and you'll get the relevant information that you'd look for, but without all the clutter around it that you don't really care about too much. Of course, that's not going to be 100% perfect because, like I said, I'm not planning ahead anyway. So it's really just going to be in post-processing when I decide that this segment of video is actually worth watching as a standalone video. And if I could find pieces like that, I'll publish those to YouTube as well separately. So I'm still thinking about how I'm going to do that. So it might take a little longer for me to figure out how to get this next video out, because I'm going to try to set that up, but we'll see how that goes. And if you have a better idea, I'm open to that, of course. I just want to point out originally my inspiration for the series was the Handmade Hero series. If you're not familiar with that, I highly recommend checking it out. It's on YouTube. I apologize, I don't remember the name of the developer doing it, but the series is similar to similar to nothing I've seen before, actually. What I'm doing is similar to that series in the sense that you're seeing the whole application built, and I'm explaining it as I go. The Handmade Hero series, though, goes into much greater depth. It's video game programming in C. So every line of code is described. There's a couple of separate videos on like mathematics and things like that. Obviously, this is beyond what I'm planning on doing for this series. I'm not going to have a separate branch of category theory and segments of category theory or anything like that. So my goal instead is to really be pragmatic here. Build something that's production quality, show you how you could do that from the beginning to the end, have as much content geared toward reactive programming that I can, but also show everything else, all the necessary components that you'd have to deal with, all the necessary problems you'd have to solve around your reactive program just to get a production quality program in the first place. I want to show all of that, and I want to do that in a way that's actually going to come to an end at some point, right? Like I don't want to be doing this for 6 years. I want to actually get to a point where I could say, okay, the app is now done and the series is done and I accomplished my goal. And that might take several months, but I'm not looking to explain necessarily every single line of code. There's some prerequisite knowledge I would expect for some people coming into the video. It's not for novice programmers per se. It's really designed for people, I think, that have some understanding of programming, at least imperative style or object-oriented programming. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. I think I wrote up some details about that in the README file in the source code, but you could take a look at that if you're interested. The other thing I want to mention is that I don't see a lot of people actually watching the video series, which is fine. I mean, for me, I'm doing this because it's a learning experience for me. Partially, I'm doing it because it's a learning experience for me. Being able to explain what you're doing, while you're typing and while you're actually solving problems is fairly new to me. This would be, I mean, I'm kind of just throwing myself in the lion's den, so to speak, by recording myself doing this for the first time. So I'm hoping you're just bearing with me while I'm trying to get better at this. Hopefully I'm succeeding. Obviously, the more people watching it, the better it is, I think, if in fact it's actually useful to them. I wouldn't want people watching it if it's not the right approach to teaching people how to do reactive programming. But insofar that it's actually a good method for it, if this little experiment actually proves to be useful, then I'd want more people to watch it. So I don't know how to increase the number of people watching the video series, but obviously I would ask anybody who's watching it and actually enjoys watching it to let other people know, let other programmers know that it's here, because the more people watching it, really just statistically, then increases the chances the more feedback I'll get, and the more feedback I'll get, the better it is for everyone and for me, because it will continue to motivate me to do the series. Like I said, right now I don't quite need that motivation. If there was even just one person watching it, I'd probably continue doing it. So anyway, this is more just like an appeal to help me get some more people watching the video series, if you think it's actually worthy of it. If you don't, then by all means don't tell anyone about it. I would respect that decision as well. I see it as an experiment, so hopefully it's going well.